Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Tuesday, it's June 19th. This will be our chart lesson for today, and it was mostly all uphill today. We had a big sell-off again during the overnight. A lot of volume this morning early, a lot of volatility really, and then we had this two-tier channel working up. This channel doesn't help you a whole lot. You really need to use the shorter term stuff. Uh, This is just not a real clear channel. It's clear after the fact, but as as the price action's forming during the day, this channel is not real clear really until I'd say when it bounced here, maybe you could say, I mean, you can see it working off the midline in here, and it does fit at the top, but until it bounced here again, I just wouldn't have, it was just hard to put a whole lot of faith in this channel because here's your trend line and you work it off those first two and then it broke below here and you've already made a new high right here. So can you really trust it when it comes back? So it just didn't really help you a whole lot. If you saw it, it kind of gives you the big picture that you can be looking for, but you really had to trade this shorter term stuff here. So I hope that's clear. It's mostly all uphill and it is a two-tier channel. And you had to figure that we were probably, let me back out again here. You had to figure that we're probably going to try to fill the gap again. Notice that we closed here yesterday afternoon and then we opened at 8:30 right in here. And so there's a gap between here and here on the daily chart because this trading doesn't occur on the daily chart. And so it only occurs on the 24-hour market. So there's a gap there, and those charts do not like those gaps. They try to fill them quickly, and so notice that we traded up and we traded back up, and we didn't quite fill that gap, but we got back up back into this level right here. So we're close. We may fill it before the overnight, before tomorrow. Regular session opens tomorrow, but we may sell off again. Who knows? But we were bumping up right against that 2800 level, and that's generally hard to push through those levels the first time or two. It usually takes a few tries. So it wouldn't surprise me to see us run back up to 2800 here pretty quickly and test that again. But anyway, let's talk about the trades. You can see we had this channel working down. We had a break and a couple of legs down, and then we reversed. And just like yesterday, I didn't measure these, but it looks like there's a leg down there with two legs in it. And then if you measure that, then you get a measured move down here. Yesterday it was a little bit clear. I talked to somebody about this. They were looking for another leg down after this one, and that's possible you could get one, but you had to be aware that you had one leg down right there. And I don't think I talked about this yesterday. And then so you're looking for another one, and we didn't quite get it there. And so, but that's still two legs down, and then we reverse there. When you don't get it, that leads you to believe, hey, we may have a bigger reversal than, pretty good move back up. So, and we did. And again, we didn't quite fill the gap yesterday either. We were much closer, but we didn't. So there's still a gap on the last 2 days. So it wouldn't surprise me to see us fill it here before long, because they usually fill those pretty quick. But anyway, we had the two legs down and then we reversed and we're just moving up here, and you can see there's a clear channel up moving up here, and there's a midline in there. I don't have it on there, but you don't really need it. Um, Notice the first trade. Let me back out a little more so we can see a little more here. But notice there's a new swing low there right off the EMA. That's right before 7 o'clock. We're actually moving up through here at 7 o'clock, and this was the first opportunity to really enter right here. I didn't mean to move that. And notice there's a new swing low lower than that one. So first entry, there's a second entry short there. It bounces right off the EMA, a nice bullish bar. So you could treat that like a failed second entry short. We're not back to the EMA. We're not really back to, you wouldn't have probably had this midline here, but we're not back to the key entry point here, which is this main trend line, and that's obvious. It's been confirmed already right here. And so it's obvious there's a trend line working up through there. We're not back to it yet, and it's a first entry, but it is a failed second entry short. So this is real close. You could argue for this to be blue. I think it's a little bit aggressive just that early in the morning. I'd like to see a second entry, which doesn't come till here, and it is off the key entry point, so I like this one. And notice it takes on off. But notice this too, again, right off the trend line, you got a first entry short, a second entry short. So it looks almost like a repeat of this, and then we actually get another swing low here, and you get another failed second entry short, which is actually another repeat pattern once again. So you got that pattern kind of 3 times in a row. Only problem is, notice we came off that high and we couldn't get back up there. We're kind of slanting to this right side. That's telling you this thing is losing momentum. But we are still bouncing off the EMA every time. So I like these two for sure. This one's a second entry counting off that high. This one's only a first entry, but it's that repeat pattern with basically a failed second entry short again, because this low is lower than that swing low. So first entry short, second entry short. This is off the EMA, off the key entry point. I like that one. And then it does the same thing again here, another bullish bar. You just had to, one reason I only marked this one in green, even though it's a repeat pattern, is there's not quite enough room to get out here. It's still pushed on through, but that's got to be a concern. So if you entered here, you probably would need to let it break higher and drop a limit order right at that high or one tick in to have enough room to get out. Didn't matter, it would have worked anyway, but you don't know that, so you can't be gambling with it. So just keep that. And then we have a little channel working down here, and I drew this off these lows and drug it up, and that's where it turned down. But notice that we're moving down, and you come back to that trend line or that key entry point. And again, I found that by drawing this off the lows and dragging it up to the top, and it turns down basically right at it. And there is 2 legs back to this key entry point. Even though you made a little lower low there, it still looks like a second entry. It's probably going to act like a second entry. It's close enough. And it is a failed second entry long because you got a new high, first entry, and then second entry. So there's a couple of different reasons to like that one. And so I like going short there. That was a fairly nice move. And then you try to go higher once, you try to go higher twice, and so you get a double top there. And notice that new low, first entry, second entry. It's a second entry short. This is the first close outside this, so we're probably going to push to a new low, and that's what ends up happening. And we just kind of go sideways from there. We get stuck in this sideways, and we've done that a lot lately. We'll sell down or sell up and then start going sideways. And there's really a double test right here of this level. Notice we test it once, twice, but that bar is just too neutral to bullish. I didn't like it. It would have worked, but I didn't like it. There's a second entry here, but it didn't break higher. So you might have considered entering there on that second entry, but I really believe you're better off to wait on this one to come back and give you a true second entry right there that's tried to go higher twice. And really, now you've tested this. You can see that resistance. It's pretty obvious at this point. And so I like that one. And you're just looking to ride it back down. You couldn't rule out that there wasn't a channel here too. And you're moving down, and it does get a close outside. It's not a real convincing one, but it's probably good enough. And then you move down, and you can see that channel's in play as well. And then it bounces. But that's because this bigger channel comes into play here, but there's just not enough evidence. There's other ways to play this, which I'll talk about here in just a minute. There's a lower high here after testing 1, 2, 3, 4, that price level. You get a lower high here, but it's right into that support. And notice how it's bouncing there. It ends up pushing lower, but this is the risk you take, and it goes back to the high side, and you get stopped out. So you do get a failed break lower here, and this actually went lower and turns and goes up, and you're a little ways from the EMA, but I think you need to wait on a higher low. And even though this went a little bit lower, you still could almost look at this like a double bottom and a higher low. But again, you could treat it like a failed break lower, and you could treat it like a failed second entry short, although it really wasn't a failure. I don't think that's good enough to treat like a failed second entry short. So, but this is that failed break lower out of this trading range. And if you drew that trend line, you could argue that, hey, maybe there is a trend line and this is going to be the break and we're going to go higher. So you might enter there. And again, I think you need to wait on the reversal pattern, and notice how we pushed right up through there and then pull back, tried to go lower once, twice, three times. Um, that's more of your reversal, and then it takes off. Even though you only have really one pull back here, it's close enough. It looks like a reversal pattern. It's probably going to act like one. Um, there is the thought that the trend of this channel here, everything you would have had this in place, or you could have drawn this line and then moved this up and see it fits, and then it also fits on the midline really well as well at that point. Again, I'm not crazy about that channel and trading off it solely, but if you got enough reasons otherwise, then I'd be okay with you maybe taking that as an aggressive trade. I like that trade because if you catch this, you catch a major low, and that's what happens a lot of times on these failures. If you caught this one, and really I should have probably marked that one green too, but notice how we're still making lower highs here each time, so that had me really concerned about this one. So that was the reason I didn't really want to mark it, but the more I think about it, there's some reasons to be aggressive there, especially when it bounced again and went a tick or so lower, because they probably there's obvious some buy-ins coming in right there, and then it takes off and you get that reversal. When it pushes on through that EMA with no resistance, that's telling you something. And notice that trend line, that's the third touch of it, and you can just see it creeping up that trend line until you finally get a break and a new high, and then we started going sideways again. I do like this one simply because at this point, even though this is a lot of sideways here, at that point it really wasn't sideways action completely. Notice that it's a double test of that low, and it's bouncing off the EMA, and you got a nice bullish bar, and it is a second entry long. So you're at the very least you're thinking, hey, maybe we're going to get a second leg up like this one. So I like entering there, and it ends up just kind of going sideways, but it was an easy scalp. Well, I shouldn't say easy, because you did continue to kind of go sideways, but you can see that little trend line working up there too. So I think there's like a spike in channel here as well, but you had that support, and the support was moving higher, and the closes were getting higher each time too until we pushed on out of there. If you didn't enter here, I definitely wouldn't enter again once we started getting stacked up here. I mean, you can see now it's congestion, and it's looking more like a little range. And then we did push on up, but I would only enter here, and then you kind of get the same thing going on here again. You get a little double test of this level here. You didn't come back previously, so it's really just a double bottom with that little failed break lower, but you can see that trend line still coming into play. It fits on the upper side. You can see that right there, and it's that little failed break lower. So you might catch another run. It may run all the way to the highs here. Doesn't end up doing that, but it runs on up and then sails off, and you get you actually get a reversal here, but this is kind of a repeat of this sell-off. Notice how it comes down and goes sideways. It comes down. This one doesn't go sideways as long, but it's kind of a repeat. And if you drew the line off this side and drug it over, just like we did over here and drug it over, it comes back right there. I mean, it's almost a perfect repeat, other than you get a failed second entry long on this one here because there's a new high. Actually, I take that back. Your failed second entry long came a bit earlier, but then when we get back to the trend line here, and that's a second entry, first entry, and then you go higher, and then the second entry right off the key entry point, right off the EMA. And so that was a nice entry. It's only good for a scalp, maybe an extra point or so, but it does come back here. And notice what happens. You get this is a new high. It's slightly higher than that one. So first entry, second entry, that's a failed second entry long. Just goes short right there. It's kind of a neutral bar, but the fact that it made a double top on a failed second entry long, when you're looking for prices to maybe come back down here, because you've got this channel and you don't have a new low in place yet. So, and then it runs down there and it bounces right off that line. And this is not a very good signal bar. It is a second entry long. It is, you do have a lot of evidence that this channel may be right. So you may want to try to grab that just because it's a second entry right off the EMA. It's not a very good signal bar, so I'm not going to mark it anything more than green. But you might consider that one. And off it goes. It would have been a good entry, but it's just not the best setup. So, and then you get a pullback here, your first pullback, but now you're not back to the EMA. That's a bearish bar, and you get a failed second entry short here. It doesn't really trigger. It actually triggers when it breaks here, but you don't want to be going long way up here that far away from the EMA, and so I don't think you want to enter on that one at the high of the day on top of that. But notice how we start going sideways and then you get that little drop. This is just another repeat pattern of this right here. I mean, we've just kind of done that several times. And it's we tested it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you get that little failed break lower. And notice how it went a little bit lower than that one, kind of like this one did. Just like this one did. It's a repeat pattern. So, and off it goes. And it doesn't go much higher, but it gets you into the 2 o'clock hour, and it does turn out to be a nice trade. So it doesn't keep going, but it's an easy scalp, plus maybe an extra point or two if you really wanted to hang on to it. So, and that took us into the 2 o'clock hour. I didn't see anything I'd be interested in after that. So I'll back out here one more time just so you can see it a little better. But really, from early in the overnight, 2 o'clock or so, 1:30, 2 o'clock, it's been all uphill ever since. It wasn't a real strong uptrend, but it's a very obvious uptrend. I don't trust this channel because there wasn't a lot of evidence to say, hey, this is legit at this point right here. Maybe by here it's looking a lot better, and you can see all that work around the midline, so you can start to get a little more. But by that time it's so late in the day, the trend could be ending. So it doesn't help you a lot. But as far as seeing the bigger picture, it does come in handy there. So I always like to try to find the bigger picture just to get an idea of what prices are doing one step more than just going by the short-term stuff. Really, the short-term stuff, I don't know why I couldn't get that out today. The short-term stuff really kept you on the right side, but it didn't give you necessarily the bigger picture. And so you needed, that if you can find the bigger pattern, it really helps. Even if it doesn't give you some great setups, at least it helps you see the bigger picture. And then you can see that would have been a measured move right there. And notice we got that to the tick and couldn't go any higher. And so that was a great target just to do a measured move. And I mean, it's a perfect to the tick measured move and didn't go a tick higher. And still hadn't gone a tick higher. And that's why we sold off right there instead of going up to the upper side, because a measured move was in place, and I'm sure a lot of traders were looking at that. So that's your 2 measured legs up, and it's corrected since then. But not a bad day. There were some good trades in here. A couple of these, if you caught, you would have got a little runner. No big runners today. This was really your best move right here. And of course, you might have caught a runner on one of these as well. But if you caught any of this, you might have caught a runner. The same thing here. Those key entry points, that's where your moves always occur from. And we can go back and look at charts over and over and over, and they'll occur off these key entry points. And notice how we're just chugging along until we hit that key entry point, and then boom, off it goes. Same thing here, we're selling off, and we hit that key entry point, boom, off it goes. And you can see even on this shorter term stuff, every time it came back to the key entry point, that's where you got your biggest move from. And that's the place you want to try to enter. And notice how they don't take much heat either. So those are the places you want to try to get in the trades. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.